what is your number one struggle that you think you're dealing with, and how are you overcoming that right now?
It's a great question. Man, I'd probably have to do some self-reflection on that. I can tell you not necessarily what I'm struggling with, but I can tell you, how about this, what I'm hyper focused on right now. Would that
Hmm.
be good?
That's
Personally,
perfect. Perfect.
yeah. So I am hyper focused on finance, personal finance.
Okay.
I have a couple guys that are very near and dear to me. One is Jason Medley. He owns the Collective Genius, and fortunately, he picks up the phone when I call. And one of the things that he's constantly preaching, and what we're seeing through this market downturn, is as we have had this enormous tailwind at our back, we've all made a ton of money over the past 5 years,
Right.
and unfortunately for most people, they have not taken care of their money,
Hmm.
right? They've blown it. They've continued to either blow it by trying to scale too fast, too far. They bought cars and vacation houses and airplanes and things like that. And now there's a bit of a market cycle, and people are losing their businesses. People are losing their
Right.
houses. People are looking up and trying and having to sell their rental portfolios to liquidate because they did not build a good enough foundation to sustain a couple bad months or maybe even a couple bad years.
Right.
I'm fortunate enough where I'm not in that place, but I'm looking and I'm seeing and I'm saying, man, maybe my foundation isn't as deep as I need it to be.
Hmm.
If I got sick, if I got cancer tomorrow and could not work anymore, could I provide the same quality of life for my family for 2 to 3 years? Today, the answer is yes. 6 months
Good.
ago, the answer 6 months, a year ago, probably not. But I also look at these old heads, these OGs that have been doing this for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I was fortunate enough to go out and meet with the guy that I really respect. He's been doing this 50 years. 50 years. And he's a extremely wealthy individual. And I just, pounded him for
Hmm.
information. Like, you're here. Obviously, I aspire to be there one day.
Right.
How'd you get there? And he looked at me, and one of the first things he said is, let me ask you this, Rem. The house that you live in right now, how much does it cost? And I said, well, and I'll tell you guys on it. Well, I live in Alabama. Real estate's pretty cheap. My house is probably $800,000 house. He said, okay. Well, I live in a much more inflated city. Housing prices are double. My house is about $700,000.
Hmm.
What's the difference? Well, I think it's humility, right? I don't need to live in an 800,000. Now, given I bought my house on, it was a wholesale deal. I got it. I didn't definitely didn't pay that for it,
Oh,
and I
nice.
put a lot in renovations. But it just goes to show, is he lives 2 to 3 steps behind his pay grade. And that
Right.
was my big takeaway from that. He's like, "Here I am, so much older than you, so much more wealthy than you, and yet my house doesn't even cost what your does."
Wow.
What lesson does that tell you, Ren? And I thought to myself, well, I'm probably living at my pay grade or maybe, one step behind, definitely not 2 to 3. And so one thing that I'm really hyper focused on is staying humble and stacking my war chest, building my family legacy and my wealth, and not going out and buying new boats or new cars, um, or just dumb shit that
Right.
wasting money, right? I'm trying to be disciplined. Jason always says this. He says this to CG, he says this to everybody all the time. Making money is a skill set, which so many people have. Keeping it is a discipline.
It is.
And that drives home for me, and I don't wanna be looking up the next time we go through a market shift and be worried. There is no reason with the money that we make and the skills that we have, there's no reason that if you've been in business a few years, you should be worried right now, other than you didn't take care of your money. You didn't when the getting was good, you weren't taking chips off the table. And so that's something that I'm trying to build in and be disciplined in and work with my wife on, and also teach to my kid.